we certainly have as many problems as the youth authority. So any large system faces those kinds of challenges. I will say this, that there are some efforts that we're making and have made over the last 5 months, I believe, that will be able to take us in a different direction. Number one is that first and primary is to do no harm. There's a lot of things that we can't do, a lot of services that we may not be able to provide, but clearly and absolutely we can't tolerate where there's staff deliberately harming and abusing kids. And whatever amount of oversight that takes, it has to start there. Certainly before you start trying to correct some things and doing some things better, first of all, you have to stop doing the wrong things. So if at any level administratively that's accepted or that's allowed to occur, then that is the first and fundamental change. Second, in terms of the role of our staff, it's absolutely true that we probably don't have the kind of resources that we really need for detention setting. Although 5 years ago our detention population was over 2,200, and today it's probably about 1,600. We've made some efforts there. 5 years ago we were sending, and the average population of Los Angeles at the Youth Authority was 1,700, and today it's 630 something. So dramatically there have been some changes. I'm not sure how deliberate all of the changes were, but the end result has been that we are sending less kids to the Youth Authority, probably more appropriate kids, and certainly we need to be able to be aware of that. But also in terms of the juvenile halls, what are the things that we're changing? So one of the things that we have done is to pour in a lot more resources staff-wise into juvenile halls so that it is not just custodial care. We're training our staff on things like safe crisis management, how to work with parents, how to be direct service providers rather than just people that stand on the perimeter and watch kids do activities. We have a whole emphasis on education and literacy, and there's a number of things. So as true as that comment may have been made, I hope that in a few months from now I can say that that probably is not true, or at least that we're committed to making some changes. Let me briefly talk with the time that I have with just a few elements which I think are important for model programs and things that I think that I'll just say very briefly because I think it's been articulated much better than what I can say. But I want to end with just a really brief little story. But first, in terms of some of the basic elements, give voice and respect to youth and their families. Absolutely. You need to genuinely engage youth and value what they say and what they feel. We want them to be responsible and accountable, but we don't want to listen to what they have to say. Listen to families. Families are the most enduring lever of change that we have. They are the 24/7 case managers. They are the first, best, original Department of Education, Health, Welfare, and Probation. Sometimes, in fact, a lot of times, parents and families don't fit the mold that we think. They're not the Ozzie and Harriet grouping. And it's absolutely true that parents have faced many difficulties, just like many of us would say if we were to be honest ourselves, that they face the challenges of unemployment, of abuse, of medical problems, of mental health problems, of substance abuse problems. But the biggest effort that we have been making in Los Angeles and trying to change the culture of our program is to really focus on working with families, to not give up on families. And just because families don't change overnight doesn't mean that we need to give up on them or do we need to give up on youth. I mentioned the fact that I believe that, number one, we need to stop doing anything that harms kids. And I think that's absolutely true in terms of a model program as well. Third, I think we need to train our staff differently. So obviously there are different kind of skills as we expect our staff to play different roles and responsibilities, and that's been articulated here as well in terms of giving them skills to be able to teach kids how to build skills, and that includes everything from relapse prevention and anger management and all the other kind of issues. Probation officers can no longer just be brokers of service. They really need to be providers of service and engage with both kids and their families. We need to stop criminalizing the mentally ill and the crossover population from the dependency system. We really need to put emphasis on building protective factors, and I think that's been mentioned, whether or not it's education or employment or pro-social group or mentoring or some of the other kinds of issues there. Reducing risk factors in terms of really intervening on gang intervention, relapse prevention, substance abuse treatment. Finally, let me end with this story because I believe that this probably encapsulates what I fundamentally believe is what a model program should be about. And it's a story that comes from a book by Higa called The Chalupa Rules. And it goes something like this. It was the 8th grade, and it was the spring dance. So it's the hot and humid gym. It's decorated with the hand-painted banners and the paper flowers. And the boys were lined up on one wall, and the girls were lined up on the other wall. And there was a table of snacks full of chips and cookies. It was more like the railroad tracks that run through the community. It's the tracks where you know that you don't cross. And I wanted to go over and ask a girl to dance. It was why I came. And the dance floor was where I wanted to be. I didn't want the hours of practicing before the mirror to go to waste. But I accepted the fact that this night, those hopes and dreams were not meant to be. And then the strains of Angel Baby began to play. The quote-unquote couples began to drift to the center of the floor. And there we were, still standing along the bleachers. And suddenly I felt someone pulling at my arm, and I found myself being pulled to the middle of the dance floor, dancing, doing what I wanted to be, and being where I wanted to be. And I finally looked up and came face to face with Diana Rodriguez, the most beautiful girl at Tafola Middle School on the west side of San Antonio, Texas. And she said, I knew you wanted to dance, and this is where you were meant to be. And that was that. My life changed. So how to build a model program? Well, just give me a handful of Diana Rodriguez's, and not only will I change the community, I can change the world. Diana Rodriguez. People who see value and talent in others sometimes before they even see it in themselves. People who grab you by the arm and say, mijo, mija, you can do this, and you deserve to be here. And people who smile and give you value and change your life. Building a model program? Give me Diana Rodriguez.